Hi, everybody. Hi, welcome to Are We Streaming? Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm Dan Reus. I'm with the Pet Care Innovation Prize. We're ready to get started here. First of all, thanks to our hosts here at IndieBio for hosting us here and for bringing us all together. It's been great to have so many wonderful people here in the ecosystem together. We're going to get started. As I said, I'm with the Pet Care Innovation Prize. That's petcareinnovationprize.com. We run a competition sponsored by Purina that we look for early stage pet care companies, and we offer a lot of support to them to help them get started. That doesn't require them giving up equity or anything else. But what we really want to do is today talk about the startup ecosystem here in San Francisco and where we're seeing in other places and how you all can be part of that ecosystem. If you have questions about the Pet Care Innovation Prize, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, but we really do want to kind of focus on the startups. So we're going to get started with, you had a chance to meet 7 different companies that are at various stages here in San Francisco and in the area that are doing some pretty exciting stuff, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what they're about to kind of to frame our conversation for tonight. So we're going to start with Ann Carlson for Jiminy.
Hi, I'm Ann Carlson, founder and CEO of Jiminy's. We make sustainable dog treats and soon food. What makes them sustainable? Well, they're made with cricket protein. Cricket protein is a great protein source. It is also sustainable and humane. We've had great traction. We're in our first year, and we're already in about 300 stores across 41 states. And we were asked what we need. Well, money's always nice. We're in the final throes of our first round of funding, but also partners who can help us increase our distribution. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Ann. Let's hear it for Ann. Next, we have Shay Cox. Shay is founder of PetHospice. Tell us about PetHospice, Shay.
Okay, I'm Shay Cox, a veterinarian and founder of PetHospice, and we offer pet parents 3 pillars of support at a time it's actually needed most. And that is 90-minute telehealth consults that are focused solely on quality of life and end-of-life concerns, an online education library that's free and video-based, and we really aim to replace Dr. Google for everything quality of life and end of life, and an online support community that offers moderation by our veterinarians, our nurses, and our social workers to give another layer of support as well as remove more financial barriers to care. And we really launched PetHospice to solve a big problem in veterinary medicine, and that's the I don't have enough time by the vet and the hey, I need more time by the pet parent. And our traction, we launched just a couple months ago, and we're on our 11th, we're getting about 11 video consults a week, and so that's really exciting. So I'm hoping to make it be a global service. And what we're looking for most and we'd be most appreciative of is mentorship. I really think that's probably the foundation of what we need the most. Thank you.
Thanks, Shay. All right, Shay. Next, if you pass the microphone off to Dave. Dave Knuffel.
Hi, everybody. Dave Knuffel. I'm the CEO and founder of Coast and Range. And we started Coast and Range, my family and I, because the health of the U.S. pet population right now is in decline. So you see inflammatory diseases like cancer and diabetes, obviously the obesity epidemic, and quite frankly, we're feeding these animals the wrong way. And so we started Coast and Range to help pet parents feed our companion animals the right way. And so quite simply at Coast and Range, we make really good food, and we simplify the process of finding the right food for your pet so that you know you're feeding the right food today, tomorrow, and for the lifetime of that animal. So it's transformational change to the pet industry. For us right now, traction, we launch in November. And what we need the most, quite honestly, beyond mentorship, which we heard earlier, we're currently hiring a chief technology officer, and so we're looking for help to help us scope that job to make sure we bring the right person onto our team.
So, like chief tech as in e-com or chief tech as in food tech?
Data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. So
Great.
those are kind of the
Thanks.
3. Yeah.
All right, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Good luck. Yeah. All right, let's hear it for Dave. Next, we've got Jasmine Mann. Jasmine is founder of DoTimely.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jasmine Mann. I'm a co-founder of DoTimely. DoTimely provides modern tools to manage all aspects of pet sitting and dog walking businesses, like from scheduling, communication, staff management, to invoicing and collecting payments. We know pets are family. And to our pet parents, we provide a delightful experience and also peace of mind via GPS tracking, photos, and real-time notifications. What we are looking for is more mentorship and also forming partnership with other businesses. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jasmine. All right. Next, we have Brett. Brett is founder of Shake for Wags Dog Food Seasoning.
Hi, I'm Brett Mailfie, founder of Shake for Wags Dog Food Seasoning. Shake for Wags is a fun, simple, and innovative approach to improving your dog's mealtime experience and nutrition. Just like us, dogs don't like eating the same food over and over again. But I'm sure a lot of you know that changing their diets can be hard on digestion and their overall health. Shake for Wags allows you to mix up meal flavors, provide that extra special and unique meal for them, as well as provide supplements and probiotics in an easy and effortless way. As far as traction goes, we've gotten into about over 100 stores through 5 states in the first 6 months. We're also in 3 countries now, China, Canada, and the US. And as far as what we're looking for to help us is mentorship in the distribution and streamlining our operations. As we continue to grow, we're trying to get the feet underneath us to prepare for that growth. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brett. You pass on the microphone next to Lindsay. Lindsay Rubin is VP at VDog.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Rubin. I'm the Vice President at VDog. At VDog, we make plant-based food and treats for dogs. So by leaving out the animal products in our food and treats, we drastically reduce the dog's carbon paw print, as well as eliminating the need for factory farming and slaughter. We were actually originally founded more than 13 years ago, so our traction involves current sales on Chewy, Amazon, as well as our own website. We operate mostly through e-commerce, and we just launched our international expansion, so we'll be available internationally starting next year. And we are always looking for wonderful marketing collaborating partners.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lindsay. And last but not least, Julia Van Broek, who's PR and Communications Manager with NomNomNow.
Hi, I'm with NomNomNow. Oh, here we go. We're a pet health company. Our flagship product is our personalized, made-to-order fresh food for dogs and cats, which we craft and deliver across the country once a week to all of our customers. Because obesity for pets is such a huge issue right now, we also cut out the risk of overfeeding by custom portioning each individual meal down to the calorie for each pet. Everything arrives fresh, never frozen. We announced our Series A in May, which is when we also announced our cat food. And right now we're just looking for partners across a range of industries, and we're open to discussing partnerships with everyone. So that's pretty much what we need right now.
All right. Thank you, Julia. All right, let's hear it for NomNomNow. So as we get started, I'm going to ask the panelists to briefly introduce themselves so you get a sense of where they're coming from, and then we're going to have a discussion about what's going on in the industry, what the opportunities are for startups, and what are the challenges and how that's being addressed. But if we could just go down the line, starting with you, Yar, if you'd tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get to know you.
Sure. Really happy to be here. Meet everyone. My name is Yar. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Petcube. We make home cameras for pet owners, and the mission for the company is to connect pets to the internet and give them a voice. So we're trying to understand pets from all the data we're seeing. We're really interested to meet the innovative companies. We have a new platform product that might be interesting for you. And just ask me anything. I would be super happy to help you in any way possible because I've been where you are some time ago. Thank you.
Thanks, Yar. Jacinthe from the World Pet Association.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Pleasure to be here with you tonight. Yes, I'm with the World Pet Association, also known under the name of WPA. We are the producer of Super Zoo, which is one of the biggest retail show in the US in Vegas. And Super Zoo is a trade show. So if you are interested in the pet industry, you have to attend Super Zoo. That's the who's who. Place. There's a ton of business being there, but it's also the relationship and the networking that you can achieve there, which is totally key. Other than the trade show, we also have 3 other shows right now, and we will be building additional shows that are consumer. So some of your products, and I already heard about some of you, have products that are just perfect for the consumer. So we have consumer event. We have America's Family Pet Expo in Costa Mesa, where we have over a 3-day weekend, 50,000 pet owners that are coming to see what's new in the pet industry. We also have the Atlanta Pet Fair and Conference, which is targeting the groomers and the pet owners. And we also have the Aquatic Experience, talking about everything related to fish in aquariums. So believe it or not, people very often get into pets starting with fish. If you have an aquarium at home, you will probably end up with a cat and a dog and whatever. So pleasure to be here again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jacinthe. Kari Goodman.
Hi, I'm Kari. I am co-founder and data scientist at AnimalBiome. And last year we competed in the Purina Pet Care Innovation.
You're a winner of the Pet Care Innovation Prize.
Yes, we were. So if you have questions about the process or anything, please come talk to me after. AnimalBiome, we do microbiome assessments and supplements for cats and dogs. And so microbiome are all the bacteria and fungi and microbes that live on and in us and help us in our guts. They help us digest food and train our immune systems and do really important things for our bodies. Cats and dogs are they're mammals like we are, so it's the same system. If these things get out of balance, they can get sick, just like you see with humans. So you see IBD, these sorts of things in pets also. So we offer supplements that are geared towards replacing an entire healthy community to these pets. So again, talk to me later if you're interested.
Thanks, Kari. Blair.
Hi, I'm Blair Morgan. I'm with Purina, so I'm kind of the Purina guy here today. So a little bit about me. Aside from the fact we have 4 boys, 3 are human, 1 is a canine. So I'm based in St. Louis. I've worked for Purina for over 20 years. A lot of that on the marketing side, and most recently I currently have 2 hats. One hat is running an innovation team for Purina, and the other hat is being an officer in 9 Square Ventures, which is our corporate venturing group. So I'm the marketer of that group. We have three people that are part of that team. One is the finance person, and one's the legal, if you will, the legal and contracts person. I'm the marketer. So it's a pleasure to be here. I am pleased that Super Zoo divorced itself from the Black Hat conference that was going on, because the past couple of years everyone was worried about getting their all their credit cards and everything stolen and the phone being hacked. So it is a great event, and actually being here at IndieBio, it's funny reading about activity and cool stuff that's going on here, and very quietly while this event was going on, Purina is owned by a parent company, Nestle, that's based out of Switzerland, and the head of both the research group and the head of R&D for all of Nestle walked out the staircase and didn't even know that they were here tonight, but they were here for other things. So I guess this is a good place to be tonight. So,
great, thanks, Blair. And last but not least, Parikshit from IndieBio here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for making it today. So I work at IndieBio. I'm an analyst with IndieBio, and so a quick rundown of what we do. We transform scientists into entrepreneurs. We help rigorous scientific insight become meaningful products. And I have the privilege of working with really amazing science-based teams that are solving problems in human and planetary health, much like animal microbiome, which went through our 4th class. And one of our key theses, which falls in human and planetary health, is decoupling animals from our economy. So a post-animal economy is something that we really want to lead. So to that end, we've funded many startups that are rethinking animals in the food chain, but also startups like Animal Microbiome and Vet Therapy that are helping us address this new relation we have as animals, as pets, and almost as kids. So yeah, we are very much looking forward to innovation in this space. So thanks again for being here.
Great, thanks everybody. If you'd hold on to that microphone, we'll get us started. Everybody here, there's a note card. There should be a note card on your chair. If you have any questions, if you'd write them on that note card and pass them up. Jay, if you'd raise your hand. Jay is the guy right there. He'll collect questions and pass them on up, and that way we can make sure that we hear what you want to know. But I want to get us started by, we heard several people say that they're looking for mentors. And I just want to start with the two entrepreneurs up here. So start with you, Yar, and then move on to you, Kari. To talk a little bit about what do you need mentors for, and where do they help, and where do you kind of just have to figure it out on your own?
Wow, yeah, I think it's a good question. I'm actually always on the look for mentors who could help our company in different areas. I think it's in general a great idea to have a mentor and or a coach, which is you can differentiate it differently. For new entrepreneurs, this is probably the most efficient way to learn. If you have a coach, someone you completely trust, and you can go back and forth and you can share the difficulties, the challenges you are facing. But then, in terms of mentors, I think of them as people who are kind of experts in certain areas. And okay, you have some challenges in marketing, you go to someone who've done what you're trying to do, but was kind of more successful or went further on that area. So like, is it food? Okay, who sold some pet food in the past, and who's a really good authority in that space? Is it technology? Is it whatever? So I guess that's what I think about it. Yeah.
Kari, how about you? Have you guys used mentors? Who do you need help from when you think about a mentor? Who helps you? Everybody thinks they need a mentor, but then frequently a startup says, but I don't know what I actually need them for. I just know I need some support from somebody who's been here before.
Yeah, I think you need mentors in every category. And I think a challenge for when you're starting out is that you get approached by a lot of people that sell themselves as consultants, and they may or may not know what they're talking about or be helpful. And so I guess I would say be kind of wary about that and like try and be smart about who you actually pay. And I think sort of this kind of thing is great. Just meeting other people doing what you're doing and normalizing that is great. For me personally, I try and seek out peers and mentors sort of in the data science realm. But we also need mentors, and we're scientists. Like we haven't had marketers on our team, so basic things that you would know if you have been in marketing before are new to us, and so you need to have a lot of conversations before you learn some of those things. And so yeah, I feel like if you find somebody you can trust that has experience in something you need to know, like cling on to them.
Great.
Actually, if I may add, so I think this is a great point. Regarding being aware of people who are just like here to make money, and the best advice I've ever got was from other entrepreneurs. And another great thing from other entrepreneurs is that you will often get insights about things you don't know that you don't know. Like if you don't have marketing background, you'll find someone who has it, and you'll be okay. But then you actually might be not aware that at this stage of the company you were supposed to hire a recruiter, because otherwise with your current rates of growth you will be struggling like half a year in the future. So like talk to people who are in your space, other entrepreneurs, maybe a little bit ahead, and like ask them really open-ended questions like, what is that you wish you would know, or like where are you having challenges, or what do you think I should be doing that I'm not doing? As like be kind of open like as much as you can about what you're doing and what your concerns are. And for me that was like super helpful. Never regretted about meeting a founder and sharing some concerns with them.
Great, thanks, Yar. Let's just ground everybody here a little bit. Maybe Parikshit, you and I were talking about before about the size of the industry, like what are some of the fundamentals of it and everything. If you pass the microphone back down to Parikshit, but if you could talk a little bit about how big is the pet industry and how does that compare to other spaces? You're an analyst, so you look at a lot of numbers. You also are a data scientist from the beginning, though. So,
so I think there's one fact is that it's growing rapidly, which we can tell. You can tell that when peacocks are personal support animals on flights, and pigs are pets, right? It's growing tremendously, but it's been a fairly large market and industry for a very, very long time. So 68% of all American households are pet owners, and just in the healthcare space, last year, from the numbers I have, around $30 billion were spent on animal healthcare costs. So it's been around for a really long time, and also when we think of health and animal health, big pharma has had divisions for animal health for centuries now. So yeah, the industry is both big and growing rapidly.
Great. I'm going to ask you the same question, Jacinthe, and maybe if you could just kind of, because you guys with Super Zoo, you see a little bit about not just the consumables and the products, but also some of the services. The grooming is a big part of Super Zoo. So if you could just talk about, what that looks like. Is that growing? Is that a great opportunity space? Is it tough for the startups? Or can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The pet industry has been an industry which has been labeled as being recession-proof, and effectively people love their pets like their kids. And my number is actually double your number, so I will take mine any day. But that's including food, so maybe yours is excluding food. So a very healthy industry that we have. And yes, we see the conjunction of different services coming into the retail environment. Like, for example, you mentioned grooming. Grooming is really growing. At Super Zoo, we have a very big section which is grooming oriented, and before we were seeing a little bit of a snobbish, or people were looking at the groomers and were not sure really what they were doing. But now we see the retailers getting with the groomers because they know that clients, and millennials especially, are looking for experience. They are looking for experience either online or in stores. They want something that will be really connecting to them. And a way to do that is to have multi-service. And I'm looking at Yushey Veterinary Hospital are doing that as well. They now have groomers, and they have behaviors, and they have people that they recommend that are daycare people, and so on and so forth. So we see all of those kind of services coming together, which is super nice, because that's a way to keep the pet owners very engaged with their pet, either from a health point of view or behavior point of view. I was hearing recently that one of the big area that will come in the future years is behavior, because people are going everywhere with their pets right now. And you cannot say to your pet, like you would say to a kid, okay, sit down and behave. It's not the same thing with a pet. So there will be a lot of rules, and people will have to learn to train their dogs to be able to behave. So it's very interesting. The times are changing, and we see all kind of different areas developing, and it's very exciting.
Great, thanks, Jacinthe. I'm going to get to it. We had a couple of questions already, and remember, if you have questions, pass them on up this way. Had a question, where are all the cat companies? So everybody's talking about dogs here. So we actually obviously have a cat lover here.
We're a cat company.
We're both cat and dog. But I was going to ask Yar and Blair just to talk a little bit about, if you could, you guys both deal with both dogs and cats. There are different, even though many households have both, they're also a little bit different. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like as a startup for serving cat parents versus dog parents, and what the kind of the fundamentals of those markets are?
Tell you what, I'll take a swing first, and then let
or something like that.
Talk about I'll just be open. I mean, Purina is actually a larger cat company than a dog company. Most people don't know that, but our cat food business and our litter business make us a bigger cat company. So I worked in the cat division and led that for a number of years as well, so very familiar with that. And the most fascinating thing to me was just the science of cats isn't as well understood as dogs. And I think it's true. We tend to divide people into dog people versus cat people, and the number of cats is 4. If you have 4, then you're official. And even people that have 4 cats know that that is like they're going over a boundary. But it's a great market. And the other thing is just so being part of a big company, occasionally you get to do some fun things. And one of the things we did with our behaviorists was we traveled to South Africa to study the African wildcat. And because there aren't enough in the U.S. to do studies with. And while they look similar to your American, I know you didn't want a long story, so I'm telling a long story. So maybe I should just tell you afterwards. Anyways, it was fascinating. And what I learned was every cat, from the smallest African cat up to the cage that they wouldn't let us go in at the rehabilitation center, because they would eat you if you walked into that cage. But every other cage we went into, the cats displayed the exact same behavior. So I always I don't know why, and it never got into my head, but dogs' breeds make them so different and so unique. And even pink poodles at Super Zoo, I don't know where those come from, but I don't know if that's bred or if it's painted. I'm pretty sure it's paint. But yeah, but cats, if they were big enough, they would eat you in the home. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity for certainly the cat marketplace as well, and it's oftentimes overlooked. So.
Yeah, well, I know maybe analysts will correct me, but as far as I know, out of $70 billion market in the U.S., about 75% of revenue goes towards dogs, and like 25. If you exclude all the other non-dog and cat animals, 25 will be cats. We started a company about 6 years ago from the insight that people would love to see their pets when they're not at home, and it obviously applies for all kinds of pets: cats, dogs, spiders, plants. Like, we're actually thinking about the Petcube. Yeah, so we started that, and I mean, obviously, like, from a business perspective, you could think, okay, like, maybe we should like focus on what is the biggest. But if the differences are not that big, as in our case, I think, for all the founders out here, it makes sense to try to pursue both routes. For example, for us, the first product was a camera with a laser pointer that you can control remotely, which was developed initially for a dog. And some people think, well, dogs don't follow the laser pointers. Actually, they do. Most of them do. Cats love laser pointers, and then also spiders and chicken, and like we have all kinds of animals on. Like, if you can download Petcube app and play with some publicly shared animals, which is, I think, super cool. People share their animals.
I think there's some humans too that laser pointers work with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Usually our customers flag those on the platform if there are any, but I don't recall we had many issues with that. So I think makes sense to develop technology for both cats and dogs, and also I think what was driving and keeps driving us is a frustration that so much of technology and so many products for pets are just so outdated and like so out of phase with what we use as humans in our daily lives. Like, I have an iPhone in my pocket. Like, why should I use this food dispenser that looks like it was developed in the 70s for my cat? And like things like that. So again, I think both like cat and dog people struggle with that, and I would not feel right for me to like put aside one of those groups. So yeah, we're developing for both, and as far as I can see, we will be continuing doing that and continuing providing a platform for people who are developing for like all the animals. Like, in the long term, like what really inspires us as a company is the idea that we might be able to make a contribution into humanity's understanding of animals. And like, for example, we have meeting rooms named after famous scientists that have contributed to understanding of pets. And of course, we also have a Schrodinger cat room. That's just funny. Yeah, I guess I love both cats and dogs. I cannot say I'm like a dog person or a cat person. Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask maybe each of you weigh in. We've heard a lot of people here tonight are talking about data plays, or we've got data scientists on teams, and I think it's kind of one of the big jokes that everybody is a big data, AI, IoT. If we can do something with drones and the blockchain, then we fill out our bingo card. But if you guys could maybe just pass the microphone down and just give a really simple example of what data is actually useful in the space and what, just give something that's kind of actionable rather than this vague idea of we're data scientists or we're going to have data as part of our play. If you'd kind of say something that you see as useful uses of data that maybe startups could be thinking about.
Sure. I think it goes back to what problem you're trying to solve, which always comes from the pain point. And in this case, it's very interesting because it's the pain point it's the perceived pain point from someone who owns a pet. And there, I think I can speak to a healthcare analyst perspective that biological data, as it is for humans, is very valuable for animals. So if you can get to actionable insight from biological data, like microbiome data that you're doing, that's incredibly valuable. But then there's also metadata from animal behavior. If you're tracking that well, I think there's the dashboard side of things. We really don't like to fund companies that can just collect data and create pretty looking dashboards. It's always about the actionable insight. If you're creating a feedback loop that creates some insight that will solve a pain point is I think my mantra for evaluating a database play.
All right, Blair, you guys, I'm sure you see lots of data and you hear lots of promises of we'll generate data. What's actually actionable?
It's hard to argue with a data analyst. So I guess the one thing I would think about a little more comprehensively, many of you are familiar with the business model canvas as an approach to, as you lay out your business model. Within each one of those 9 areas, there's data that can be useful, and it's important to identify what you need, what data you need, and what you're going to do with it. I generally tend to simplify it down. There's 3 buckets of data. There's consumer data, there's technical data, and then there's business data. And oftentimes we get caught up in, if I just have this consumer data, then I'll have a home run. I can sell it to somebody, or it'll make me smarter, proprietary, or whatnot. But I think it truly gets
But you guys
back
get that shopped a lot. Like lots of people come to you saying they have consumer data, right? It's not necessarily actionable.
For sure. And of course the holy grail now is, individualized data, right? And so you hear a lot of data plays, but whether it's on the acquisition of the data and then they want to resell it, or if they're actually going to use it in their own business. But it's important, and we've had data for years, right? All of a sudden it's like this really cool space, data, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes it takes a long time to collect data. Purina did one study that took 13 years, and it basically showed that if you fed your dog 75% of the calories that it would have eaten if it was free-fed, then they'll live 2 years longer. And that piece of data changed all of our packages in the mid-90s. So, data, absolutely, it's important.
Great. Kari, can you give an example of how you guys are doing data?
Yeah, it's hard for me to think about this in a general way. For us, it's kind of everything. We have our supplement product, and that's one thing. And then the other side of the business would be health data and microbiome data, and combining those two things is really powerful. And just, I think, for people considering or in the pet care space, one really cool thing about this space is just that health data is much easier to deal with in pets than in humans. And so it just makes everything a lot. You can get a lot of people are forthcoming. They want to share data about their pets. They want to learn about them. You don't have the same privacy restrictions. So it just makes it a lot easier. Maybe it's coming.
We have a petition going down here. Just saying, can you talk a little bit about what, across the industry? And by the way, before you were with the WPA, you were actually on the veterinary side, so you actually kind of see it from both spaces. So, what's the role of data, and when is it actionable and when is it noise?
Actually, data is very important, and as you said also, the 13 years of experience. If you have a product, you have an idea, you're passionate about what you're doing, you have to find the data, and you have to have the support, the backup information that will sustain what you're doing. Because if you don't, eventually it will catch up with you. So do the research, know your number, use also the consumer research, because anything you have now, especially with everything, the social media and everything, you have to have consumer data. And you want to be able to use it and take action on it. You don't want to have this death by data, which is very dangerous. But anything that you're selling, product or services, you will have to message it to your target audience. And to do that right now, you have to have the data on those people. You have to segment your audience. You have to go after who you want to go. So you have to create your personas, and then you go with the message that will resonate with them. And you do that only with data. So you can have your own data. You can also purchase data on the market, but you have to have the intelligence of knowing how to use it. But once you do, man, it's powerful, but that's the way to do it.
What about you and data? So all these cameras, do you just collect all that data and you sell that to the NSA, or talk a little bit about about you?
Yeah, no.
You have the challenge that people probably need to have trust of you and their data, because you really are a portal into their home.
Yeah. No, I think I'll probably say something like contrarians. The data alone does not matter that much. There's actually so much data around, like much more data than people can make sense of. But to your point, kind of lots of data means lots of responsibility, and we spend a lot of kind of effort in protecting the data, protecting customers, like encrypting everything, making sure there's it's foolproof. Like even if you're use a password, we'll figure out if there's an unusual pattern. So it's almost I don't know, Gmail bank level kind of security. If you deal with things they're highly sensitive, we have cameras in people's homes. So that's one piece of that. But then look, you have data. So a couple things. First, what actually matters is what is the value you can create from that data, either from business or for consumer. And there is quite a long pipeline from a heap of data to some value. So first you need to clean that. There's an idea of dirty data. Any data you get is dirty. To give it to analysts, and for analysts to be able to do anything meaningful, you gotta clean that. Second thing, many people, they kind of start their businesses building, thinking about their business models and thinking, okay, there's this whole magical black box with AI and ML on the sides of it, and I just put my data into that magical box and it gives me whatever I want, and I think that this should be possible through AI. Well, this is not exactly like that, and even though there are many really nice tools available, if you better talk to someone who really knows what they're doing in AI, or if you're a computer scientist, spend some actual time figuring that out, because the reality is that for your particular use case, you will be one and only who will be able to write the right algorithm and build a neural net or whatever you need, or many cases you actually don't need any neural nets. It is just a buzzwords. There are so many mathematical methods to work with the data. And then only then you'll be able to tell if this is actually meaningful, if you will be able to create certain extract some insights, and then after you get insights, then you think how to present it into some kind of product that will be useful by the end consumer. So
Can you give an example of that you guys have done?
Well, for example, something that we're working on, we have all of this video coming from all the cameras, and obviously we're the biggest pet camera company in the world, so we have tons of that data. And then basically what we're working on, we work with a group of scientists who know a lot about pet behavior, obviously, and big thing that all of us are trying to do is basically productize science. There's lots of science, but it's not implemented in any products that are available for consumers. So that's what we do. We productize science about pet behavior. So when we look at that, we kind of identified a bunch of patterns. We know that these patterns potentially could be recognizable through computer vision. Step 1, recognize a pet through computer vision. Step 2, build a skeletal model of that pet. Step 3, recognize these patterns. Okay, pet is sitting, laying on the ground, sleeping, scratching, being aggressive, whatever. You have maybe a couple dozen labels of that. Once you have those labels and like you actually taught your neural net to recognize that, which is also hard because to do that you need labeled data. To label data you need some humans to watch through the videos and say, okay, this pet is laying down. How do you do that if your data is privacy sensitive? So we actually invented a way to do that. And we know that certain companies that are camera companies are doing that by outsourcing that to some remote villages somewhere in Asia or Africa. And I mean, potentially some person you've never met will be looking through your video, you walking in your bathroom in like or whatever in underwear, and like labeling that as a person in underwear. So like we don't want to do that. So, like these are just examples of like little challenges that you need to overcome to build this. And then once we have the neural net that can label that data, like, okay, so as a pet owner, what kind of benefit do I get from knowing that my dog was sitting all day long, looking at my camera, waiting for me, giving them a treat? Well, that's not valuable. What is valuable is when you aggregate all those patterns across many cameras or across many days through one camera to tell, okay, it looks like your dog is sick. And that's a whole another level of science and like pattern recognition and so on and so forth. Or if you can say your dog is anxious and recommend an anti-anxiety product, that's a business value you are creating now for someone who sells that anti-anxiety product. But that just describes a really long chain of events that need to happen to make something valuable out of data. Data is abundant.
Thanks, Yar. I mean, if you'd pass the microphone down, we had a question. We're going to shift gears here a little bit. Parikshit, you mentioned the idea of moving beyond an animalist economy. A lot of people are aware that protein is a challenge, and I'm going to ask Blair if you'd talk a little bit after Parikshit, but just talk a little bit about, you guys have got a couple of companies, and VDog is here, they're doing vegetarian or vegan pet food, but talk a little bit about that, what's driving that, and is that something that's likely to be a fad, or is that something that's likely to be sustainable? And then I'm going to ask Blair the same questions of you.
Yeah, that's definitely a rising trend, and I think the underlying driver there has to be efficiency. One of the reasons we're diverting to lab-based meat or plant-based meat is because you can attain higher efficiencies and in terms of yield or production of protein in the lab, may it be through cells or through plant fiber. The only thing there is the issue of bioavailability. So it's the simple fact that you've got to eat a lot of spinach to get the same amount of protein that you can get from a burger. But in terms of the science, I think the science is validated, it's well understood for the yield and how yield would move over time. It's at that point an engineering problem, how it would scale. And how it would scale depends on the bioreactors that are being used today. So I'd say it's more of an engineering problem than the fact that whether we can do it or not. It's more likely what would make or break this fad is whether bioreactors can scale.
So that tees up you, Blair, perfectly. I mean, you guys, obviously, it's not just an engineering problem. It's to be able to scale, it's got to be a market that can scale. Can you talk a little bit about, how do you, alternative proteins and clean meat and some of these things, what does it take before that really hits the mainstream?
Okay, so a lot of this may be my own thinking, not necessarily representing some corporate philosophy right now, but I did something this past week I haven't done in a long time. I went to eat at White Castle. Anyone who knows the Midwest is familiar with, you just don't do that too regularly. So the reason I went is because they were selling the Impossible Burger. And they've been selling it in, I believe, 300 outlets. And,
so the Impossible Burger is, a great
vegan burger. Yeah. So, a little bit of back of napkin math, somewhere between 5% of their total sales growth. So growth number this year was related to that. So I think consumer perception shifting. Not quoting any particular research here, but I think we know it is because all of us sitting here recognize that we're trying to eat cleaner. what does that mean? I think there was a comment over here about, a lot of the pet care industry was built in the 70s. It feels that way, right? And even going back further than that, the pet care industry was built as a really in parallel to the human food industry, right? And so the word byproducts now has taken on a really bad meaning, but historically, the AFCO regulatory manual that names products and ingredients was built on the agricultural industry. So byproduct meant the organs. A cow would go to slaughter and you guys eat the steaks, and what was left would be used for feeding the ag industry and the pet food industry. And so unfortunately now some of that's taken on a lot of bad meaning, but I think it will continue to evolve, right? And the desire to treat our pets better and in a humane way. Nowadays, if we saw somebody beating a pet on the street, I think we would feel like they're beating a child, right? How can a pet defend itself in many cases? And yet, we increasingly extend that to other animals. And so that belief of treating humane our own pets extends to the animals that are part of our food chain. So that's a long way of saying I think the industries, sometimes you can say 10 years from now, I know it's going to be here big. It's hard to say if it's going to be next year or a year, 2, 3 years, but I think it's accelerating. And I think, products like VDOG and others that are out there, Jiminy, that are looking at alternate proteins, I think it's increasingly acceptable, right? Like, I don't know if I have eaten crickets. I don't know if I want it on my plate every night, but I know my dog goes outside and eats moles and he eats crickets and cicadas and, he loves all that stuff. So do I feel bad feeding him that? No.
Great. Thanks, Blair.
I could make a quick point. I think when it comes to protein, there's high abundance of protein. We just didn't know where to look for it. And the underdog that comes up is fungi and even bacteria. Fungi, if you compare microscopically, fungi are more similar to meat than plants. And there's so many options to create protein. It eventually boils down to how it will scale. And even there's the ethical implication that is driving this, but I think ultimately what would drive this is the price point. We don't want to pay, we want to pay within bounds, so I think the price point is very important.
Sorry, just going to add one more thought, because it was the first thought I had. You'd mentioned efficiency. There is so much inefficiency in the human food chain right now. If you go look at the food waste numbers, 40% of fresh produce, vegetables, and meats in your grocery store are thrown away. So just walk in your grocery store and look around and think about almost half at the end of the week is going to get thrown in the bin, and it can't even go to the food shelters. They can't accept many of that because of date codes. So there's a big opportunity just around what we do grow, that we use it, whether that's for humans or for pets. So just wanted to add that thought.
Great. Thank you. So we've been going for about 45 minutes, and this has been live streamed. The recording of this will be on our website the next day or so. So we encourage you to take a look at it. We're going to wrap up here because we want to have some time for people to talk a little bit more afterwards, but we have 2 more questions, and I'm just going to start down here at this end, Yar, and pass it on down that way. I'm going to ask each of you to quickly address the last 2 questions we had were, what's the best way to get your product in front of the key buyers? So what's so is there some magic bullet? And I mean, there's lots of long things, but if you just think of a quick, what's one thing that you could maybe give as a quick piece of advice or quick observation that you could do? And the other one is, somebody asked, are there holes in the industry? So if you, as most of you are pet parents, or you see the industry or whatever, is there something that you just looked at and said, wow, why isn't somebody addressing that? Or I think somebody's probably going to address that. So let's just go down the line, and let's start with you, Yar. Kari, can you? Sure.
Yeah.
So the questions were, get in front of the key buyers and a hole in the industry.
Yeah. So I think the first one, I don't know if that will sound cliche or like a revelation, depending on what you read previously. But I think like the best marketing and sales strategy is making a product that is so good that people just pass it on one to another and just like spread it by word of mouth, and like word of mouth will be your marketing, and like when everyone wants to get your product, the buyers will come to you asking for your product, giving you the best deals. That is always what you should be aiming for. Sometimes that just doesn't work from like the first iteration, and then like the way to think about MVP is something that is not like all product, no marketing, no sales, no customer support. MVP is something that is a little bit of product, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of sales, a little bit of support, a little bit something else. But like as a CEO, I always repeat, and like there is a great book by Andy Grove, High Output Management, which I highly recommend every single manager in the world to read, even if you're not in tech. And just like I emphasize that to myself every day. If I have like a spare minute, I should be spending then on the product, not on marketing, not on sales, not on something else, because improving the product, that's like the highest leverage you have. And on your second question, what are like the opportunities in the market? Yeah, I think it's like full of opportunities. It's just like there's so many, and I think some of the most exciting for me are in the field of services and kind of education. You know, it's like almost like people have no idea what to do with their pets. Like the pet doesn't come with a user manual, and if someone could create one, I think that would be great. Yeah.
Great, Jacinthe.
I will disagree with you a bit about where you should spend your energy. Obviously, if you have a great technology, a breakthrough product, a winning products, you want to put everything on your product, but it's a luxury that doesn't come all the time. So what do you do when you have a great product but might not be this breakthrough that everybody will want to talk about? I think you have to pick your distribution or your go-to market very carefully. And now I want to say that maybe 25 years ago, you were finding a company or people that had money that would invest into you, and then you would go and market your product the traditional way. Now, the new way is that companies will look at you and your entrepreneur here, and they will want to make sure that your product and who you are is a sellable product. So you have to build your own kind of like pilot test and prove that you have a solid product. So you have to create that, and then people will come and invest into your project. So that's the first thing to do. You have to go out there. You have to network. I recommend talking with retailers or people that are connected to the industry you're talking to. Like if it's veterinary, talk with veterinarians and ask them if they would take your product, if they would try your product and support and get in a few hundred stores or a few hundred veterinary hospital, and then you can go after the larger market. But networking, piloting, talking with the people in the industry. Don't think that people will steal your idea. Try to build those partnerships. That's really the key to do it.
Any opportunity you see in the space that you're thinking, wow, somebody's going to really do something well in here?
Yeah, I agree with you. There are a lot of opportunities coming from the veterinary industry. I think that everything related to DNA analysis and something that could, by tracking and the genomic, really guide what you will need from a health point of view and behavior point of view is definitely something that we will see growing. With all the wearables and the technology, we haven't seen anything yet, so that's very exciting.
Great, thanks, Jacinthe. Kari, what do you suggest about how to get in front of that that person that's going to write the big check or do the big contract, and then what do you think are some holes that are worth filling?
So we're still learning about that, I guess.
We're being honest, huh?
Yeah. So our products, they have kind of a high education component. We need to teach people what we're doing, and so we've learned about just trying to get information out about what we're doing, blog posts, getting articles placed, things that can just tell people what this is all about. That combined with sort of learning, I guess we spent the early start of the company really learning from our early customers, and we get tons of feedback from them, and just trying to understand the challenges they're facing with their sick pets, and the kinds of things that they're thinking and that they need from us. So.
And you see any opportunities that you think somebody's really going to do well on this?
The holistic and integrative veterinary side of things, there's just tons of space there for innovation and lots of interesting things happening, lots of growth. Yeah.
Blair. Thanks, Kari. Blair, so what do you think? So, like, you just have office hours and people come up to you all day and you pitch things and you write checks, right? That's how that's how it works.
We do get some pretty crazy ideas. Okay, I'm going to take the second question first just because I've been thinking about that. I think what I thought about first was not necessarily a business idea, but what would I change in the industry? I'd get rid of puppy mills. I'd find a way to put them out of business. I think they do a disservice to everyone and the pet, certainly. And I think it's within the means of technology to do that. Years ago at Purina, I had a chance to sponsor. I met the founder of Pet Finder when Betsy had just started in New Jersey and sponsored her for a number of years. And then we eventually ended up acquiring that many years later when Discovery Network shed it because they were just using it for run of site network advertising. So I think I've always felt like if we could do something good, it would be on the front end and on the back end of pets, ending euthanasia. That's the mission for Pet Finder, and it's what's brought 14,000 shelters together. So I think there's some big things there, and it's not necessarily about making a dollar. It's about doing what's right for the pets. So that's kind of the maybe there. The other one I would say is it's just very specific, and it's in the business that we're in largely, which is nutrition. I think the entire AFCO manual's outdated. I know this is live streaming. I'm going to get in trouble. But for example, it's grown organically over the years, and so an ingredient name like corn gluten meal, there's no such thing as corn gluten. Corn has no gluten in it, but it was named that way back in the 60s because wheat gluten. And and even just to get that changed is a monumental task, and there are reasons some people wouldn't want it changed. So I think when we talk about clean ingredients and what we're putting into pet foods, we should be able to get more specific, and I think that would help demystify a little bit what's going on. Okay, go to market. The one thing I would say, I think consumers don't get all the votes, and I'm going to agree with retailers. Think about your distribution channel and go talk to them. Do they think they can sell it? Are they willing to give you feedback and pass information back to you as you're test marketing it or starting small? There's really no secret. I mean, but I will say it's a great opportunity now. This is a great time to be starting because e-com has just exploded what used to be a very traditional model of specialty, veterinary, or grocery. And those buyers are oftentimes very difficult to get in front of. So.
Yeah, I would second the importance of a go-to marketing strategy and your distribution channel and the business model. But I think one thing I see over and over again with early stage startups is I'm surprised how they don't know what their unit economics are. Startups don't know how much the customer acquisition cost is in relation to lifetime value of the customer. And that only comes if you're out there from day zero and talking to your customer and figuring out their pain point. And I think maintaining a good idea and a good feeler for what's driving your costs over time and what is the demand of your product over time is very important. So that's something I would emphasize. In terms of innovation, like I said earlier, our relation to animals is changing rapidly. So that in itself it creates so much opportunity in general, and I think we will have a full stack of innovation coming out of that, right from health to longevity, as well as behavior change. Because animals, I might be wrong on this, but we can classify animal behavior easier than we can classify human behavior. People have been doing it for a really long time, and I think it'll be easier to create actionable insight out of that.
I think that's a really good insight. You know, there's some interesting data on the economics of the industry that the spend per household on pets really rose rapidly at the same time as people stopped calling themselves pet owners and started calling themselves pet parents. So as that humanization happens, that's really resulting in changing the economics. I want to thank the panel. This has been a great discussion. You've been a great audience. We have a little bit of time here. I just want to give a shout out. I don't know if Hillary is still here. Is Hillary still here? Oh, okay. So we have the Pet Care Innovation Prize. We support early stage startups, and like I said, this isn't really a pitch for it, but we're happy to have you. They won the Pet Care Innovation Prize. Hillary, who was here earlier, she's from Sausalito, was our first grand prize winner. So these companies get some cash, get some business support, get access to a great network of peers, and we hope to continue supporting them. And we hope that you kind of join them and kind of come together as a pet care ecosystem here in the Bay Area. You guys have something really special. I want to give a thanks one more time. If you have any questions, I think the panelists have a few more minutes to stick around, so make sure you talk to them. If you want to talk to me about the Pet Care Innovation Prize and find out details, I'm happy to give you a card. And this will go live on go up on our website, and we'd appreciate any feedback you gave us. If you have any questions, let us know. But otherwise, thanks and have a great night.